part 4 of my video lecture of my first YouTube course, and the title is The Role of the Substance Abuse Professional in Relation to the Return to Duty Process. Check out my introduction to this course. Check out my part 1, my part 2, and my part 3 of this course, and this is now my part 4 video. So I'm going to put focus on part 4 video, which is the last video in relation to this course, in terms of how does Clearinghouse fit into the return to duty process. And like I said, I really do encourage everyone to check out the entire course. Basically, the return to duty process outlined in part 40 of the DOT regulations, subpart O, has not changed at all. And I'm going to kind of just give a real good overview of how the Clearinghouse fits into the process. First of all, a driver with a verified drug and alcohol program violation is prohibited from performing safety-sensitive functions until the return to duty process is completed. And in my prior videos, I talked about the role of all of the service agents, the MRO, the medical, which is the medical review officer, the DOT qualified SAP, the laboratory, the breath alcohol technicians, all of those different service agents. I talked about their role. And the driver is no longer prohibited only when they have successfully completed the entire return to duty process. And first of all, one of the main things that happen when that driver has become a violator and that information is entered into the Clearinghouse, one of the first things that has to happen is that violator has to do a SAP request. But I tell anybody, don't request me as your SAP until first I have talked to you. But that's one of the first things that's got to happen. That driver has to submit a SAP request. That SAP request is submitted in the Clearinghouse. Once that SAP request is submitted in the Clearinghouse from that driver, then after they don't communicated with that SAP and etc., me personally, by that time, I'm going to have communicated with them, set up that first appointment to get in front of me so I can go ahead and accept that person. That means that SAP destination. That's step 2. That SAP has to accept that person to become the designated SAP to guide that process. And then by that point, that initial SAP evaluation is completed. When that substance abuse professional complete that initial SAP evaluation, that SAP or DOT qualified SAP will submit the date in the Clearinghouse that the initial SAP evaluation is completed. Based off the results of the initial SAP evaluation, that SAP is going to recommend a level of care, treatment, or education, give that trucker or that client, deadlines. I'm gonna give that client deadlines to comply to my recommendation. And once they meet with me for that follow-up, and I'm verifying that they done everything they need to do according to that recommendation, at that point, the driver will be determined eligible for the return to duty test. Once that driver has been determined eligible for that return to duty test, then that return to duty test results gotta be negative, and that's gotta be done by that employer. And when all that's taking place, that's now setting the stage for that employee to now have to comply to those follow-up testing plans determined by the SAP. So that's sort of like a simplified version of how the Clearinghouse fits into the return to duty process. That SAP is going to enter information in regards to when that client did that initial assessment, that SAP is also going to submit information into the clearinghouse when that client is eligible for that return to duty test. I'm sorry, when that client, that driver has been determined to be eligible for the return to duty test. That information, it will be submitted in the clearinghouse by the SAP. And it's kind of like a well-oiled machine, but that clearinghouse does play a huge role in relation to, it's almost like the point of contact in terms of making sure all of the pieces of the puzzle are whole in relation to what role every service agent have to play, and most importantly, what that trucker, that driver, have to do to, bottom line, make it to the finish line. That the qualified DOT substance abuse professional will submit that follow-up testing plan only to the employer, not the employee. And then that follow-up testing plan will have to be adhered to, because, you know, that's going to play a huge role in that client in terms of fully doing everything they need to do in relation to the follow-up testing and making sure everything goes smoothly, so they won't nothing will have a negative impact on them being able to continue to perform the safety sensitive function of driving that commercial vehicle. So again, this is like a simplified version of how the clearinghouse fits into the return to duty process. This is a simplified version of the role that all of the service agents play in relation to guiding that employee back to become eligible to perform the safety sensitive function. So again, this will be the completion of part 4 of the role of the substance abuse professional in relation to the DOT return to duty process. I am a qualified DOT substance abuse professional. I hold all the credentials to do this. I've been doing what I do as a qualified DOT substance abuse professional for well over 25 years. So that's all I have. Simplify, Simple Fidelis. And again, make sure you check out my introduction to this course, my part 1, my part 2, my part 3 to this course, and this is part 4, the final video. That's all I have. Simplify, Simple Fidelis, and I'm going to leave you in the care of your own conscience. Have a great day.